The Stake for Donald Trump and All of Us by Paul Craig Roberts. Covert geopolitics. We need to understand, and so does President Putin, that the hoax war on terror was used to transform intelligence agencies such as the NSA and CIA and criminal investigative agencies such as the FBI into Gestapo secret police agencies. Trump is now threatened by these agencies because he rejects the neoconservatives' agenda of U.S. world hegemony that supports the gigantic military security annual budget. Our secret police agencies are busy at work planting intelligence, quote-unquote, among the prostitute media that Trump is compromised by Russian connections, quote-unquote, and is a security threat to the United States. The plan is to make a case in the media, as was done against President Nixon, and to force Trump from office. To openly take on a newly elected president is an act of extraordinary audacity that implies enormous confidence or else desperation on the part of the police state agencies. Here you can see CNN openly cooperating with the CIA in treating wild and irresponsible speculation that Trump is under Russian influence as if it is an established fact. The evidence provided by CNN and CIA is a report, quote-unquote, by the New York Times that, with little doubt, was planted in the New York Times by the CIA. This is so obvious that it's clear that CNN and the CIA regard the American people as so gullible as to be completely stupid. Glenn Greenwald explains to Amy Goodman that the CIA is after Trump because Trump's announced policy of reducing the dangerous tensions with Russia conflicts with the military security complex's need for a major enemy. Quote, the deep state, although there's no precise or scientific definition, generally refers to the agencies in Washington that are permanent power factions. They stay and exercise power even as presidents who are elected come and go. They typically exercise their power in secret, in the dark, and they're so barely subject to democratic accountability if they're subject to it at all. It's agencies like the CIA and NSA and other intelligence agencies that are essentially designed to disseminate information, disinformation, and deceit and propaganda, and have a long history of doing not only that, but also have a long history of the world's worst war crimes, atrocities, and death squads. This is who not just people like Bill Kristol, but lots of Democrats are placing their faith in, are trying to empower, are cheering for as they exert power separate and apart from, in fact, in opposition to, the political officials to whom their support is supposed to be subordinate. And you go, this is not just about Russia. You go all the way back to the campaign, and what you saw was the leading members of the intelligence community like Mike Morell, who was the acting CIA chief under President Obama, and Michael Hayden, who ran both the CIA and the NSA under George W. Bush, were very outspoken supporters of Hillary Clinton. In fact, Michael Morell went to the New York Times and Michael Hayden went to the Washington Post during the campaign to praise Hillary Clinton and to say that Donald Trump had become a recruit of Russia. The CIA and the intelligence community were vehemently in support of Clinton and vehemently opposed to Trump from the beginning. And the reason was because they liked Hillary Clinton's policies better than they liked Donald Trump's. One of the main priorities of the CIA for the last 5 years has been a proxy war in Syria, designed to achieve regime change with the Assad regime. Hillary Clinton was not only for that, she was critical of Obama for not allowing it to go further, and wanted to impose a no-fly zone in Syria and confront the Russians. Donald Trump took exactly the opposite view. He said we shouldn't care who rules Syria. We should allow the Russians, and even help the Russians, kill ISIS and Al-Qaeda and other people in Syria. So Trump's agenda that he ran on was completely antithetical to what the CIA wanted. Clinton's was exactly what the CIA wanted, and so they were behind her. And so they've been trying to undermine Trump for many months throughout the election. And now that he won, they are not just undermining him with leaks, but actively subverting him. There's claims that they're withholding information from him on the grounds that they don't think he should have it and can be trusted with it. They are empowering themselves to enact policy. This is, of course, treason. They've given an oath to give information to the president in order to have national security. Quote, now I happen to think that Trump presidency is extremely dangerous. You just listed off in your newscast that led the show many reasons. They want to dismantle the environment. They want to eliminate the safety net. They want to empower billionaires. They want to enact bigoted policies against Muslims and immigrants, so many others. And it's important to resist them. And there are lots of really great ways to resist them, such as getting courts to restrain them, citizen activism, and most of all, having the Democratic Party engage in self-critique to ask itself how it can be a more effective political force in the United States after it has collapsed on all levels. That isn't what the resistance is now doing. What they're doing instead is trying to take maybe the only faction worse than Donald Trump, which is the deep state, the CIA, with its histories of atrocities, and say they ought to almost engage in like a soft coup where they take the elected president and prevent him from enacting his policies. And I think it is extremely dangerous to do that. Even if you're somebody who believes that both the CIA and the deep state on the one hand and the Trump presidency on the other are extremely dangerous, as I do, there's a huge difference between the two, which is that Trump was democratically elected and is subject to democratic controls, as these courts just demonstrated and as the media is showing, as citizens are proving. But on the other hand, the CIA was elected by nobody. They're barely subject to democratic controls at all. And so to urge the CIA and the intelligence community to empower itself to undermine the elected branches of government is insanity. That is a prescription for destroying democracy overnight in the name of saving it. And yet that's what so many, not just neocons, but the neocons' allies in the Democratic Party are now urging and cheering. And it's incredibly warped and dangerous to watch them do that. In the United States is now the extraordinary situation that the liberal progressive left is allied with the deep state against democracy. The liberal progressive left are lobbying for the impeachment of a president who has committed no impeachable offense. The neoconservatives have stated their preference for a deep state coup against democracy. The media obliges with a constant barrage of lies, innuendos, and disinformation. The insouciant American public sits there sucking its thumb. What can Trump do about all this? He can clean out the intelligence agencies and terminate their license granted by Bush and Obama to conduct unconstitutional activities. He can use antitrust to break up the media conglomerate that Clinton allowed to form. If Bush and Obama can, on their own authority, subject U.S. citizens to indefinite detention without due process, and if Obama can murder a suspect U.S. citizen without due process of law, Trump can use antitrust law to break up the media conglomerates that speak with one voice against him. At this point, Trump has no alternative but to fight. He can take down the secret police agencies and the prostitute media conglomerates, or they will take him down. Dismissing Michael Flynn was the worst thing to do. He should have kept Flynn and fired the leakers who are actively using disinformation against him. The NSA would have to know who the leakers are. Trump should clean up the corporate NSA management and install officials who will identify the leakers. Then Trump should prosecute the leakers to the full extent of the law. No president can survive secret police agencies determined to destroy him. If Trump's advisors don't know this, Trump desperately needs new advisors. This is by Geopolitics, and it's on State of the Nation.